John Matuzak, and then they get the two alignment napping each other. Send it to my kids. My daughter's prosecuting another case right now. So I sent her just listen. Listen, we're going to get together. He gets all jacked up and he goes, what number is it? He doesn't know. Telling me, he said, look, Greg is round up. And I said, he's round up. I think your sister says, oh, he's round up all the time. All the time.
They are right about that.
This is awesome. He's here. He's here. He's here, yeah. I'll tell you about that. She's 27 today. She's here. She's excited to be here. No. You have to know.
Yes, I do. Okay, great. Thank you for doing that. It's all set up. Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the noon meeting of the Rotary Club of Baton Rouge. I'm Club President Gregory Wood, and I want to welcome all of our members and also all of our guests and remind them that Rotary is where the top business professionals and community leaders go to lunch every Wednesday for the last 107 years. So in Rotary fashion, we're going to get going in short order. We got a schedule here. So I'm going to ask Leanne Lockridge to lead us in an invocation, pledge, and four-way test.
Good afternoon. Please join with me in a brief moment of silent reflection or prayer before an inclusive invocation, respectful and reflective of the diversity of beliefs among our Rotary members and guests present today. May all gathered here soon become inspired to become a change maker in one or more areas within Rotary's broad scope of work, including promoting peace, fighting and preventing disease, supporting maternal and child health, and basic education and literacy, and protecting the environment. May we all be inspired not only to want change, but also to take action and to work together with our diverse community partners locally and across the state and around the world to create lasting change for improved and more equitable outcomes for all persons everywhere. We know that change is needed across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Inshallah, amen. And now please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Okay, we've got a lot of guests, and I'm going to ask Rotary past President Shard Richard to welcome everyone.
Thank you, President Gregg. Very welcome to all of our Rotarians and our guests today. You can see we've got a great crowd today. I do want to draw attention to, we've got 3 tables up front with some very special guests that would like to recognize the LSU Lab School Interact group.
Just before me is the LSU Rotary Club. And finally, our Thrive Academy Interact Club. Certainly want to recognize our First Lady for joining us today, First Lady Sharon Landry. And finally, all visiting Rotarians, if you would, we'd love to, we always like to recognize our visiting Rotarians directly. With such a large crowd today, I'll ask if you would, please stand up and let us welcome you properly. Thank you and enjoy this great program.
Thank you, Shard. Okay, today's head table from left to right, Leanne Lockridge, Professor of Law, LSU Law Center, who led us in the invocation pledge and four-way test. Robert Douglas, Senior Section Supervisor, retired, ExxonMobil. Mary Erlingson, Managing Partner of Erlingson Banks. DeShilly Young, Vice President and Engineering Manager of Neil Schaefer. I'm Club President Gregory Wood with Gage. Rotary Past President Shard Richard, Managing Partner of Richard Consulting Solutions. Our Governor, Jeff Landry, is our guest speaker, and he will be more formally introduced by Franklin Foyle, Senator, 16th District, and attorney, Foyle Law Firm. Your head table. Just a couple of quick announcements. On April 2nd, we'll be back at Drusilla next week. Our guest speaker is East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office Captain Brian Block, speaking on virtual vigilance, battling cyber crime scams. Also, we got a project coming up with Love the Boot Week. That's a partnership with Keep Louisiana Beautiful. That's on Friday, April 11th. This is Louisiana's largest litter removal and beautification effort. So there'll be more details of that to come. Before I step down and we introduce the governor, I want to give a quick update of the Rotary Club as we end our third quarter. As the Rotary year began on July 1st and will end on June 30th. So I got to ask the question, are we a vibrant club? That's what they train presidents to be, to lead a vibrant club. So be thinking of that as I go through this. By definition, vibrant means being full of energy and life. So do we engage our members, conduct meaningful projects, and try new ideas? Well, since July 2024, we have added 38 new members. You follow with me here. We've completed 31 service projects. We've raised $15,000 towards Polio Plus. We supported disaster relief funds for Carolina storms and California wildfires. We worked with the Cajun Navy, sorting donations for the Carolinas devastated by the storms. We've held 2 cleanup projects with Keep Tigertown Beautiful here in Baton Rouge and also provided them with a 20-foot trailer for larger trash pickups off our highways. We participated in the first ever North Baton Rouge cleanup with Keep Jaguar Nation Beautiful. We held 4 different service projects with the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank. We held 5 different projects with St. Vincent de Paul, held 1 service project with the Greater Baton Rouge Zoo, held 1 service project with One Stop Homeless Day Shelter. We outfitted the pantry for our friends here at Thrive and added them a new refrigerator. We read to the elementary schools every month, the last 7 or 8 months, with the Volunteers in Public Schools program. We adopted over 125 children for the holidays in partnership with the Salvation Army. We held 3 blood drives with the Our Lady of the Lake Blood Bank. We installed 10 Rotary Peace Poles. That's my baby right there. And to cap that off, as we close, we've culminated 1,400 service hours as a club. So I'll answer the question. Yes, we are very much a vibrant club. Thank you for your support of Rotary. At this time, I'm going to ask Franklin Foyle to introduce our governor.
Thank you, President Gregg, and good afternoon to my fellow Rotarians. It's my distinct honor and pleasure today to introduce our guest speaker, Governor Jeff Landry. Jeff's love for our state and his passion for helping others is defined by his Louisiana roots. Jeff grew up in the small town of St. Martinville, where his mother was a school teacher and his parents took him to church every day. Later, Jeff learned the value of hard work in the sugarcane fields and then proudly joined the National Guard, serving in Operation Desert Storm. After returning home, Jeff worked as a police officer, a sheriff's deputy, and then he went on to graduate from Loyola School of Law in New Orleans. Jeff was later elected to the U.S. Congress in 2010 and then the Attorney General for Louisiana in 2015. On October 14, 2023, Jeff Landry was elected to become the 57th governor of Louisiana. On January 8th, he assumed office. Jeff and his wife Sharon were living in Broussard, Louisiana with their son JT prior to being elected governor. On a personal note, I can say without hesitation that Governor Landry has proposed and passed more legislation in his first year of office than any other governor during my time in the legislature. He's impressed me as someone who is a genuine problem solver and who's willing to put his political capital on the line to get things done. He also has impressed me with his willingness to not only listen but work closely with legislators to resolve their issues and concerns with his proposals. This past tax reform special session was a big win for all of us in Louisiana. As a governor, he has not been afraid to make the changes necessary to turn Louisiana around, deliver results, and fight for working families. Please join me in welcoming our governor, Governor Jeff Landry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. It is great to be here. I tell you, I'm so excited. Actually, I think I'm more excited about the lab school being here because this is really about talking about the future of Louisiana. I really do appreciate y'all being here. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank the Baton Rouge Rotary for giving me an opportunity to come here today and to speak to you all. I've been dragging the poor First Lady around the state for the last 3 weeks now. This is our last stop, and I hope on Saturday we are going to turn the page on Louisiana. You know, I think, and of course you can see with all these microphones right here, you know, this means that all of those folks in the back with those cameras think that we're going to say something really important, and we are. We're going to talk about how great of a job people like Senator Foyle and many of the members of the legislature have been in all last year, and how we have placed Louisiana in a position that is really unheard of. It is really transformational. Because I believe that all of us, irrespective of what our political ideology believes, that we are at a pivotal moment, not only in America, but in this state as a whole. I can tell you that just on Monday, many of you may have seen that we were over at the White House making an unbelievable announcement with President Trump, and I don't think anybody doubts that President Trump is absolutely shaking up Washington, D.C. and causing a tremendous amount of chaos. I can tell you, after being in the White House almost all day long, there is a lot of chaos going on in Washington. And as a former member of Congress, I actually enjoy watching it from the bleachers. And I think one of the things that really took Americans by surprise, one of the things that President Trump did was when he brought Elon Musk into the fold and started running on this Doge experiment, where we went in there and started lifting the curtain on a lot of the expenditures that were going on. And maybe we had heard about, maybe we had thought about, maybe the media had presented to us, but we didn't really believe it was happening until someone like Elon Musk came out there and just really started peeling the curtain back and said, let me tell you what they're spending this money on in this country, in this country, in this country. And Americans as a whole started saying, well, wait a minute, is that really what we want our tax dollars to do? Especially when we have vital infrastructure in this country that is falling down. We have vital infrastructure needs in this country. Should we not be looking to place America and Americans first? And I think that is what the president is doing. I want you to know that, and if you see the president, please don't tell him I said this. I'll tell him that you misunderstood me, because he likes to have his own ideas first. But I did this when I was in Congress, and I did this as Attorney General, because 8 years or 9 years ago as Attorney General, when Franklin and I came to Baton Rouge, the state was in dire fiscal straits. And we recognized that we had to create efficiencies. I did, because the last administration and I didn't get along too well. I don't know if any of y'all had recognized that, but they didn't. But we went and started running we called it a fiscal responsibility program. And I brought a friend of mine in who was a business owner, and he was always complaining about the government spending too much, and he always said that he was cheap. And I don't believe he was cheap, he was just pretty fiscally responsible. And we brought him in there, and he started finding ways, and we found millions of dollars worth of savings And we ran that fiscal responsibility year after year. And if you go and you talk to any of the employees that worked for me over those last 8 years, they will tell you that we empowered them to find efficiencies, and then we gave them back a portion of what they saved for us. It was a real unique and great opportunity that showed me that in state government you could do that. And so we brought that program back, and because of Elon Musk, we call our project Doge. We kind of put a little accent on it, you know? I put a little French to it. And they're starting, they really are. We've got some of the legislators involved in it. We're working with the legislative auditor. We brought Steve Orlando out of retirement, and they're really starting to put the pencil to it. Just the other day, they found like $1 million worth of cell phone data that we were paying for in one agency that we weren't even using. But it was just being resubscribed year after year. They were just paying for it. Nobody even realized that we were not using it. And so sometimes, or a lot of times maybe, the question is not that we purposefully wasted in government. It's just that we don't have an opportunity to look back, or no one forces us to go back and look. Because at the end of the day, that is your money. And so I want you to know that we take spending your money seriously here in Baton Rouge. And so, in light of that, let's talk about what we did last year, which has brought us to this year, which is really changing Louisiana. Because what I said earlier is that we are witnessing a transforming of this state in a way that we hadn't seen before, because I believe that the election that happened 2 years ago, and the people that y'all sent to Baton Rouge, including me, y'all sent there to detangle this state from the web of challenges that we had, from public safety to education to our economy. So how many times have you complained about, why are people moving out of this state? Why is this group most likely, before me becoming governor in Franklin and the new legislature being seated, why were more of these young men and women were going to leave this state rather than stay into this state? And why were more people leaving than coming in? And why did we watch our southern neighbors decade after decade be able to land economic development projects like automobile plants or airplane manufacturing plants? Why did we look at a state like South Carolina, which 30 years ago was very much like Louisiana, demographically, population-wise, mean income-wise? Why 30 years later is their means income $15,000 to $16,000 higher than us? Why is Boeing building airplanes there and BMW locating its North American headquarters there? And so you asked those questions, and you said, and the people in the state said, we want to change. And so we did, and as Franklin said earlier, we took a pretty aggressive approach. In fact, those folks in the back with all those cameras and these microphones right here, just so y'all know, said we were moving fast, but they didn't realize how fast President Trump could move. It made us look like we were moving slow. But let me tell you how fast we moved. We moved immediately on public safety, okay? Because we knew that you can't build a strong community unless we have a safe community. We can't worry about our education if you're worried about just the fear of having your child walk from home to school. And the fear of having to worry about your child walking from home to school took your eye off of what was going on inside the classroom as well. And so we doubled down on public safety, and we did it by focusing on two groups. We focused on victims, and we focused on law enforcement. I mean, that's just, you say, wow, that's an anomaly, wow, that's different. No, it's common sense, because our criminal justice system is based upon those two people. It's based upon victims, and we wanted to make sure that our criminal justice system was transparent. And we wanted to make sure that we supported our law enforcement men and women, because for a long time, for a couple of decades, well, certainly just a decade for sure, because of bad apples in a profession, we had a large-mouthed minority of people telling us that our law enforcement people were bad people, and that is absolutely not true. There are bad people in every profession. I want you to know that in the law profession as well. I just want you to know that. Especially, how many lawyers we got in here that they actually want to say lawyers? But again, we focused on those two, and we have seen the results. And we took that approach And we took an approach and said, listen, if you're a bad person and you keep doing bad things again and again, we need to take you outside of society. And we said, if you're a good person and you make a bad decision, we want to give you a second chance. We recognize especially that we have and had a terrible juvenile crime problem in this state. And so again, one of the amendments is on the ballot is to help us balance that out. And it's not punitive. It's meant to create a system of balance that says that if you create very violent crimes, you pay a price. Because when you're creating that violent crime, somebody, that innocent person, is paying that price. But we also did things to start to repair that juvenile problem so that those people don't make those bad decisions. Just yesterday we went and announced a $30 million investment in a juvenile facility up in Alexandria because we want to create regional juvenile facilities so that we don't ship juveniles from Baton Rouge to Alabama. We want them to stay here if they've made bad choices so that we can rehabilitate them and bring them back into society. And so by focusing on those two people, we saw and we are seeing results. Now I know that many of you said, well, you know, I think you spent too much time in New Orleans because Baton Rouge has a problem as well. And I want you to know something. I feel you. Here's a little secret. We started with New Orleans because we figured if we fix New Orleans, you fix anything in the state of Louisiana. But we are getting ready to replicate some of the things that we saw and that we learned in the city of New Orleans, because there we've been able to reduce homicides by 50%, drive carjackings down tremendously, and the list goes on and on. We are getting ready to come to Baton Rouge. Get ready. It's coming. I've been talking to Hilla. I've been talking to Sid. In fact, that's part of what I was doing in the White House as well, talking to the Department of Justice, and we are going to get crime in the city under control. And so we began to focus on education. So we brought the legislation from a special session on crime into a regular session, and we said we're going to focus on education because we're tired of being last. And we focused on two groups again. We said let's focus on parents and let's focus on teachers. Wow. That's interesting. That's the two most important people. Because the most important voice in a child's education are their parents. And the most important person in their lives during that educational opportunity is the teacher. And for some reason, decade after decade, after spending more money, because I was actually in the White House, Sharon and I were in the White House last week when the president signed his executive order dismantling the Department of Education, which I completely support. Why? Because we have spent more money on our educational system in this country and in this state, and we're getting bad results from it. Because we've taken our focus off of those two groups. But this legislature did not last year. And we passed things like health savings accounts, education savings, education scholarship accounts. And we started with the poorest of the poor and children with disabilities. And why? Because if you're a parent with a child with disabilities, your child should not be stuck having to go to a school under which there is a program, maybe at another school, that is better for that child. Because when you have a child with disabilities, those programs have to fit that disability, and not every school can fit every disability. And so that's what we did to ensure that those children have a chance as well. And then we did a Let the Teachers Teach It project, where we brought teachers in from the public school system and said, how can we better help you? How can we increase the interaction between you and your students? And they said, let me give you a list of things that you have piled on to us, making us social workers instead of educators. And so we said we're going to strip those things out. And then we did something. Now I want to see some reaction from certainly from some moms. We took cell phones out of schools. Y'all might not like it. No, it's true. It doesn't get excited. I mean, I tell you, after we did it, I had a bunch of parents call me. They were so excited. I had my nieces and nephews call me kind of like, Uncle Jeff, please don't take my cell phone. I said, you're going to be all right. Don't worry. You get it back, It's going to be good. But we talk to teachers, and we're seeing more interaction between students because of that. And then it was so funny. And then on top of that, we talk about making teachers social workers over the years. You know, we got all these great reforms in education. And by the way, Louisiana, for the first time ever, has the highest test scores that is ever achieved in this state in America. We are 32 now. Because of this legislation, because of the Superintendent K. Brumman and them, we are beating the nation in math and reading. So what I'm telling you is, it is working, and Louisiana is changing. And of course, as we're doing these things, and we're passing these great reforms, I didn't even recognize this. Dodie Horton files this little bill, put the 10 Commandments back in classrooms. I didn't even know until it lands on my desk. And I'm signing all these great bills. And then I see this one, I thought, what's this? I said, we're going to put the 10 Commandments back in school. All right, that's great. Go sign this, put it over. I walk outside, and the world went on fire. It's just like people went crazy. I mean, I'm telling you, it was the most unbelievable experience of my life. I'm thinking, what is the big deal? Because isn't it ironic that from the time your child is born to the time they leave your house, which sometimes you wish is sooner rather than later, okay? We are trying to teach these young people to be obedient, not to steal, not to cover thy neighbor, not to kill, to be respectful. And those are all things found in the 10 Commandments. Like, it is a bad way to live your life. That is how far we have come. And the interesting part that I found is that the calls that I got on that bill, supporting that bill, came from teachers who had been retired for 50, 40, and 30 years in the system at a time when we respected the natural law in this country, which this country, by the way, was founded upon, which are found in all of the founding documents. And they said, we have watched as those things have been replaced in our schools, the decay of our school systems and the failing grades in math and reading and other subjects as well. And so I just tell you, when we go back to those core principles, we will be great again. And so then we said, well, that's not enough, because we know we have to focus on the economy. And I'll tell you this. We are on the move when it comes to job creation. And the way and the reason that we are on that move is because right before Thanksgiving, when the legislature did not want to come back, Frank's going to tell you that, they were tired. I said, y'all got a little bit more in you, and I promise you, if you do this, I'll give you all the turkey, which I did. You got your turkey? I did. We said that we are going to put Louisiana in a position so that businesses, so that corporate boardrooms, so that those in foreign countries who want to invest domestically into this country and create great paying jobs will look to Louisiana once and for all. And the reason they have not is because of our entangled, complex, and archaic tax policy. Y'all have all, I notice this is all businessmen. I want you to know these are mostly business folks. Okay? And they complain about it all the time. And legislature after legislature have tried to do it. And I'm telling you what, in 2 weeks, we changed the dynamic and the trajectory of the state. And we did it by focusing on the Tax Foundation scorecard. Okay? And if you don't know what the Tax Foundation is, go look it up. Whether you like them or not, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to tell you something that is factual. If you look at those states in the bottom, the 10 states in the bottom spots of the Tax Foundation, and those states in the top 10, there is a clear difference between the means income that a family earns in the bottom states and in the top states. It's demonstrable. You cannot argue it. We're talking like 11, 12, 18, $24,000 between what the family in the top 10 is making and the family at the bottom. And guess where Louisiana was? In that bottom. And these children deserve families with more income. And you get that by improving your tax policy in the state. And we went in that tax package, we went from 42 to 25. Now, we're not in the top 10. We started off in the top 10 with the package. We couldn't get it there, but we said we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're going to keep working, and we want an opportunity to keep working. Because I can remember when LSU was really bad, and we were just wishing to get in the top 25. And we made it in the top 25, and then we got into the top 10. And that's what we're going to do, and that's what I'm here to tell you about. Because never before has the future of this state been placed in the hands of the people than it is today. And if you don't think that all of the great things that we did, all of the things that I'm talking about are great things, before I go over what is contained in Amendment number 2 and why you should go vote on Saturday, let me tell you what that momentum looks like. Because of what we did on public safety, because of what we did on educational reform, and because of what we did right before Christmas, we went over in December with Susan Bourgeois and them working all last year. Her and her team at LED are unbelievable. They're the greatest in this state, I can tell you. We went over into one of the poorest parishes of this state, into an area that had never seen economic development before, other than agriculture. And we dropped a $10 billion AI facility, under which Meta is going to make that the largest AI facility in the world. And then just about 3 weeks ago, I'd never seen this before. The president sends not one, but 2 cabinet secretaries to the same state. I've never seen 2 cabinet secretaries in the same place for the same reason. And 3 weeks ago, I traveled down to Plaquemines Parish, where Venture Global announces an $18 billion LNG expansion, making that site in Plaquemines Parish the largest construction project in North America. Has that ever happened? And then, while we were doing all those things last year, we traveled to Korea. And of course, I don't know, some of them, maybe not these folks, but some in the press were trying to criticize me for going like I was going to sunbathe in Korea. Okay? We travel in a very compressed timeline, because we did it right before the tax session, to talk to executives in Korea. And on Monday of this week, in the center of democracy, in one of the most powerful places in the world, Louisiana announced a steel mill, $5.8 billion to be built right here in this capital region. And we got more. I'm going to tell you, I believe that by the summer we'll have $50 billion worth of projects in this state. $50 billion worth of projects in this state. I got a lot more I can tell you, but they told me I only got 10 more minutes. But let me tell you, never before has there been $50 billion spent in this state in private money. Never before has Louisiana improved its education or standings like it has right now. The ability to keep that momentum going is now up to you. And I get it. Saturday, it's probably going to rain. We don't. It's not one of those real fancy elections where we got colorful characters on the ballot. It's just amendments. But let me tell you what that amendment does. It is probably one of the most responsible things that the legislature has ever done. It permanently lowers your income tax. Permanently. And it sets the path for us to eventually eliminate the income tax in the state of Louisiana. It doubles the deduction for our seniors, making sure that our seniors get to keep more of their retirement money during their retirement so that they don't leave Louisiana to go to places like Florida and to Texas. It creates a limit on government spending to ensure that we spend within our means. We merge and eliminate duplicative savings accounts, streamlining our financial management and reducing waste. In fact, we realized that by doing that, we could take our teachers off of the political podium where they were used like a political football. I know that. My mother was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher. My godmother is a teacher. And I know the political football that goes back and forth. And we could give them a permanent pay raise using the $300 million that we're sending to Goldman Sachs. Well, I don't know. There might be somebody from Goldman Sachs here. I don't want to criticize the bank. They're making some money. It's legal. You know, but we're sending $300 million worth of interest payments to Wall Street banks. Wouldn't you rather send that money into your classrooms? Huh? And so we permanently give our teachers that raise. Because let me just say something, and I want those folks with those fancy cameras and those with the pens to understand this. The amount of money that teachers are making today in the state of Louisiana, there is a $2,000 stipend attached to it. It is a stipend, meaning it is one time. It is not in the budget. If this amendment doesn't pass, they don't get the money. If it passes, they get a permanent pay raise under which they don't have to come to the legislature year after year to beg for the $2,000. That's good government. And we do it by paying down that debt. And then, I know somebody heard it. That this amendment is going to harm religious organizations. Now, I just signed a bill putting the Ten Commandments in school. You think I would do anything to harm our religious organizations in the state? We preserve the homestead exemption and religious organizations exemption. And Franklin knows this because the way we ensured that we protected our religious organizations was because we went to the religious organization with the most amount of property in this state. And we said, you write it. And when we got that, that's what we put in. That amendment will lock in the reforms that will provide the largest tax cut in the history of this state. And it will be accompanied by fiscal reforms that will benefit this state for a long, long time, for a generation, for their generation. And the question that the voters of this state have is, what are they choosing? To ship them to another state or to keep them here? Because our opportunity, our moment in this state is now. And it has been placed in your hands, in the power of the people, not some elected official. We have done everything that we can. And so I will tell you, as much of an inconvenience as it might be this Saturday, if you don't vote, you set them back. You set Louisiana back. You take a toolbox, you take a tool out of Susan Bourgeois and her team's toolbox that is winning for us. You want a bridge? That steel mill is the best opportunity to get us the bridge in this city that we need. And we got another surprise for you next week, okay? That is only going to further enhance it. The good news, I'm gonna stop. I know y'all not used to so much good news. Y'all are like shocked. Okay? That's the problem we're having in this state. We got a group of people out there that they just don't know how to win. They don't know how to enjoy success. That is what Susan and them have done over at LED. That is what Franklin and them have done at the legislature. They have done what y'all have been asking us to do. And now we've placed it in the hands of the voters. And here's what I'll tell you. You will look back in a little election in the spring with probably not many people on the ballot. will become the defining moment in this state. It will determine whether or not we continue the success that I just laid out for you and so much more, because we have so much more potential, or whether or not we go back into the grind of fighting and nagging of teeth and the usual booms and busts that this state and our people have been so accustomed to. It creates the cultural change that we need to keep people in this state. And guess what? Last year, at the beginning of this year, I don't know if you'll know this, but for the first time in decades, the Census Bureau reported that 30,000 people came to Louisiana rather than 35,000 people leaving Louisiana. And so everything I laid out for you is all the reasons for you to get up and go vote on Saturday. And I will tell you, you will not regret that vote, because it will give us an opportunity to continue to focus on the most vital, important natural resource in this state, which is you. Thank you so very much. God bless you. Please go vote.